Hello gamers. Today I want to teach you a lesson about coping with losses. I'm talking about matches where you lose and it feels bad and you have taken some psychic damage from the match. What's your move? I'm going to show you a secret weapon here that no gamer uses. Virtually no gamers in Dota or League of Legends, quite a few in StarCraft 2 actually, but no one in Dota or League of Legends knows this trick. This is called replay analysis. And when we get into this game, this is a game that ends up being a stomp. The enemy team really runs away with it, so it's not a close game. And in those games, you really want to, you have an easy excuse for yourself as to why you lost. And that builds hatred toward the other people on your team. So it makes your mindset more about hating the other people on your team than it makes about you looking at your decision making throughout the match and what you should have done about the situation. Because there's always stuff that you could have done differently in terms of your map movement choices and your spell micro, etc. So when you have a really tough loss, this is what you do. You get into a replay, and then you follow along with your decisions based on what's happening on the map. And you think about, was this a good idea or not? And I love that I have this replay from today because I feel like I made a really silly decision that wasted a lot of time for myself. And I think I put myself behind. So while it sucks if your team loses all 3 lanes, your lane you have influence over. So why did you lose the lane? Could you have left earlier and made different decisions? You have to ask yourself those questions. As a learning tool here, I have MS Paint, which looks like this. I will show my camera here. Okay. There is action at the first blood, actually. We'll look at this first. Okay. So we have a good setup here. 3 of us are attacking a Shadow Shaman. If we look at the everyone view, both teams, there's a Pudge right here. So the Shadow Shaman runs, and the Pudge gets the exact hook that he needed. And in most games, the Pudge on the team is not going to be that on point, or just randomly not going to be there. Normally they're going to be by runes or something, I guess, but wow, that's exactly the hook that Pudge needed. So already we're taking a little bit of psychic damage in something getting pulled away from us that was almost dead, right? So a little bit tilting here. Be patient with yourself, like that's okay. It's okay to miss opportunities and not have stuff. You just need to accept things like numbers in a math equation. How do we rate the bounty rune exchange? We would rate it subpar, but that happens some of the time. And as a carry, or as whatever role you're playing, for you to be the best Dota player you can be, or the best StarCraft player you can be, you have to ask yourself the question, what can I do about the situation now? What is my best move? Of all the moves, for me as a player here, what is my next best move? Because the move that you make probably isn't the best move unless you're a top pro.
I really hope this match ends up being of any cosmic size.
So you want to assess this. So I like that I'm going for this. We'll kind of follow along my decision making now. And I want to basically grill myself. I want to focus on grilling myself so that I can refine myself as a player and learn the game. I want to learn the game like a student, and I don't want to care too much about the MMR right now. We're all betting a certain number of MMR on this match, and maybe we bet and we win and we gain MMR, but maybe we bet and we lose MMR. Rather than being super focused on this particular win, you want to think about, what did I capitalize on from the previous win? Like, what was my lesson from last game that brings me into this game with a new perspective and a new practice emphasis? No one's thinking about a practice emphasis. That's the embarrassing and shameful thing about online gamers. We need to take responsibility for this. If you are bitching at your team and you are raging at your team and you have never once studied your own replays, I don't know. I think we discovered the problem for you. So far, I don't really dislike anything that I've done this game, but we did have an unfortunate situation happen. Pudge is a little bit behind on mana because of the hook, so that is a disadvantage for him from that situation. I have net first, which is not really what I want, but we were very close to getting a kill. Okay, I get a CS. Okay, first thing I don't like about this situation for me is I should have immediately grabbed a tango. Since I'm not topped off, I want to make sure I'm topped off, because if I am full HP, I think I can survive being hooked and then net and walk away and be okay. But if I'm injured, anytime Pudge hooks me, I'm dead. So I need to be full HP against this lane. This is a very dangerous lane, and one thing that I could have done better was thinking about, okay, Pudge Shadow Shaman, what am I looking out for here? Well, basically you don't want to be hooked and then grabbed by the Shadow Shaman, because then you're pretty much surely going to be dead. That's just too much damage and too much positional power. So my plan should have been, I want to leave the lane as early as possible. I want to get maybe 2 Wraith Bands, or a Wraith Band and a Null Talisman. I think I made an itemization mistake here as well, in that I could have just gone 2 Wraith Bands, because the Radiant Jungle down here gives you mana regen. This class is sponsored by Pretzel Wagon, throwing down 10 gifted subscribes as part of the subathon. Absolutely incredible. Online 24/7, we're into day 10, even sleeping on camera. The dedication, the commitment is there. It is around the clock entertainment. And this is my next big mistake. This is a really tricky situation, because this looks like a kill, and it's probably going to be a kill, but look what's happening right now. Pudge is free. This Pudge is going to be very wealthy in the early game. He's level 2. We're level 1. Yikes. That's bad. The amount of time and lack of experience that I'm getting this whole time isn't even worth the kill. And he had a Fairy Fire. This Shadow Shaman has tricks up his sleeve. He's got all kinds of utility items early on. He's got mangoes. Look at this time. This is a big mistake from me. So even though we get stomped later on, and even though my team could have played better, so could I. This is ridiculous. If I'm here in the early game, I need to ask myself, like, what am I doing here? How did I get here? I'm in safe lane, level 1. Why am I at mid? So there was a big mistake. Well played by the Shadow Shaman, but I need to basically assess some stuff for myself. As I'm losing a game and I want to cope with losses, what does this look like? What does it look like when you're trying to cope with losses? I'll tell you. Okay, BRB thing go away. Great. What are we saying? I'm moving this. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Coping with losses. Let's put red. Losses hurt. Okay, let's make this large, bold for emphasis. Cool. So when we're coping with losses, what are the facts on the ground? Regardless of my opinion on things. Let's look at some facts on the ground. First of all, losses feel bad. That's just a fact. They feel bad. So you feel worse going into the next match. You resent teammates for their mistakes. That's you investing mental energy in thinking about them. You're giving them real estate in your brain by hating on them, by talking shit to them, by talking shit to them after the game. This is a fact on the ground. If you're being tilted by other people, this is happening. You need to rein that in. Focus on you and what your key mistakes were. Key mistakes. So this thing that I did, I'm in Legend 4 right now, by the way. That was a silly decision for me. But it was hard to turn back when there was such an injured Shadow Shaman right in front of me. He's a squishy hero. But I don't have much kill potential right now. I'm level 1 Naga Siren. I don't have anything. And this Pudge is free, so we're going back to a big problem here. And maybe my mid laner also lost hard. And maybe my top lane also ended up losing really hard. But I could have done better stuff myself. And then now the lane's in a bad spot. I'm hurt. I'm level 1 and he's level 3. So I have no space to talk shit to anyone on my team because I have also done something very silly this game that I need to take responsibility for. Look at this. I'm just in bad situations now because Pudge is level 3 and I'm level 1. So even though, yeah, we die here. No place to talk shit. And because this is a, whatever, medium level game in terms of skill, everyone else is making similar amounts of mistakes throughout the game. So we need to all collectively acknowledge that these matches that are lost have mistakes from all 5 players every time. We need to assert that. All 5 players make mistakes every single game. Or 6 players if you're playing a 6-player game, or 1 player if you're playing a 1v1 game. All 5 players are making mistakes every game. Maybe some people made larger mistakes than others, that's true. But all of us made mistakes, so the cleanest route to get from a loss into the next game is to just write out the main 3 things you fucked up. If you can boil it down to that, of these 3 decisions I want to do differently, and this is what I should have done, then you will have huge power level with your growth over time. And I'm still trying to work on this with Dota because I'm learning this game. It's a tough game. There's a lot to learn. That was a big mistake, and now I have to walk back to lane because I TP'd back after it. We got so punished for this. And then the next mistake I'm making here is my Null Talisman I'm making. I don't need that. I don't need that because I have the Radiant Jungle, and the Radiant Jungle gives you mana regen. So I should go 2 Wraithband and use that mana boost to be able to farm the jungle faster. So that's another mistake for me. So even if my Warlock has no items at all and didn't stack camps... Wait, why does he have no items at all? Oh my god. You see, it's not about him. Focusing on him will only tilt you. I don't have control over this player or their actions or their item choices, but I have to deal with the situation here. But it fits with the same theme of I need to get out of this lane as fast as possible. Regardless of how well this Warlock plays, that theme is based on the draft, not on my teammate's skill. I need to think about what can this hero potentially do to help me or to apply pressure to the enemy team, and then what can I do about that? So my goal right now is to get out of lane and to jungle as quick as possible. And since the Radiant Jungle is giving you mana regen when you're over here, then I should capitalize on that by skipping an item that I would normally need to sustain my spells. So 2 Wraithband. And maybe I could just go 2 Wraithband in general. Anyway, that might be an improvement of my play overall. People who know more about Dota, feel free to weigh in about that. Okay. So we get this guy. Have a net in 3. Do we get him? The Pudge hooks the Warlock. Man. Okay. This would actually be the perfect time for me to leave the lane, I think. I should leave after this wave. The Pudge is going to be back. I should definitely leave. I should leave and go to the jungle south of tower. I should immediately leave. I should leave right now. I should go to the jungle. Oh my god. Oh no! I knew it! I had the instinct when I look at the situation in the replay. You look at it in the replay and you're like, bro, look out. Bro, look out! Pudge is gonna be back! Pudge is super high level, run! I should have immediately farmed here. Okay, so already, let's look at this. Already, we have our 3 mistakes. Find 3 key mistakes that you made early on, and you will find some growth in yourself. So, for example here, this is just for this particular Dota game. What did we do wrong this game? Don't chase from lane, level 1. Let's just say this is a lesson that I'm learning this game. Don't chase from lane, level 1. That's what we learned. Use mana or HP regen of your jungle for my items. So I didn't consider that the Radiant jungle gave me mana, so I didn't need the Null Talisman and the mana from the jungle. I just needed one of those. Or I could have been in the Dire side, and then maybe I'm Drow and I don't get a Null Talisman because I farm over there instead. I think that was a mistake that I made as well. And then respect or the enemy's TP reply and leave lane. So that decision to contest the Shadow Shaman in the lane there and not respect the Pudge return was really big. I died there because I didn't respect the Pudge and the Pudge's lead. He was ahead of us in levels and gold. So this match ends up playing out poorly, and I'm going to show you some of what happens in this match. Because there's a lot that happens in a game like this. But for you as a player, it's so refreshing to be able to go from being butt mad about other people and all the fuck ups that they had, and then just focus on, all right, for the next time, what's my goal? That keeps you on the right path for both your own mental well-being, for your skill progression, and then also for other people's enjoyment of the game. If you're someone who's focusing on your practice emphasis and you're trying your best to play your hero and you're communicative with your team, you're exactly what they want for a teammate, which is awesome. So you win on all fronts, basically. You win on every single front if you can be respectful of other people and also of the difficulty of the game and your own personal mastery. It's so hard to learn a game of skill. These games of skill that they have as esports, they're really hard. All of them are hard to play at the professional level because the level of accuracy and the quality of their decision-making process are so high that anyone who casually steps into any of these games can be easily thrown around and destroyed. So these are high skill ceiling games. We need to be humble and just look at our replays. Replay analysis is the way for you to ultimately untilt yourself from crushed games. It's 5-14. It's 5-15. My team is getting destroyed. It's 5-16. The Warlock doesn't have boots or any other item. It's a blood grenade, observer wards, and a smoke of deceit. And many people would fall into the abyss of flaming this Warlock because they have no items. But I said nothing to Warlock the whole game. I didn't really talk to any of my team too much aside from when I got my Manta and stuff. Aside from telling them my item progressions, I don't really feel like I can do too much about their success early on in the map because I'm not supposed to be with them. So I gave them my thoughts and prayers as a carry, but it was not my job to yell at them about what they're doing. I'm letting them do my job, or they're doing their job, I'm doing my job. I don't need to yell at them. It serves no purpose. I just need to be thinking about my own movement on the map. What is my own movement on the map? Focus on where you should be on the map and your main positional mistakes. Where were the hot spots of where you died? I died right here in lane to the Pudge because I didn't respect his TP return, so I was far from my own tower when the offlaner TP'd back with full mana and resources. My team is getting completely run over. What is the safest place on the map? This top jungle is actually pretty safe because Silencer isn't there. Let's look at free camera. Where is Silencer going? Yeah, he's relatively forward in lane. It's kind of dicey to be up here, but The HP regen is nice, and Silencer isn't very good at killing Naga Siren. You can just TP out. So if Pudge doesn't TP and Shadow Shaman isn't there, this is probably the best spot on the map. And you could say that this spot, being the opposite team's jungle, ends up being the safest in games that are the most scuffed. So with a game like this, where we're very behind, this could be good. Or if I was dire side, then this would be good. It's out of sight, out of mind. This is not warded by their team. They don't have this Watcher. No one is farming here. This is just dead space currently. The Silencer is more forward. He's capitalizing on the XP of lane, and then he's farming at a bit of this for himself, which is cool. It's a forward position. My team just got run over in our woods here, so I can't farm here. And then this Watcher was taken by the enemy team. Or no, this is our team? Yeah, I'm here. But Pudge is right here, so these camps are not very safe right now. And I'm not strong enough to farm Ancients yet. So this map is very closed off to me. But there are things I can do about it. I could try for this. I could also just be here. Just being top would be better. So after the 10-minute mark, I could have gone top sooner and just used this tower as my defensive point. I could farm this, and then start to dip Ancients. As you go through your replays, you should feel less tilted at other people and even at yourself, because there's so much to learn about these game states that you can't even be mad that you made the wrong call. You just need to accept that you made the wrong call and figure out what you should do next time. It's a very simple procedure, but you have to train yourself to think that way. The default reaction is, oh my god, my Lich only has Tranquil Boots and Magic Wand, and my Warlock has a Hand of Midas, Boots of Speed, and a Blood Grenade. Like, a person could easily be upset by this, but there were things that I could have done better too. So it doesn't make sense for me to mentally invest in yelling at them when I should mentally invest in repeating more in my mind what I should do better. Think about the time investment of bantering at them and talking shit to them. You have to commit your hands to typing words at them, or you have to use your voice to talk shit to them. And that's time that you could have spent focusing on your decision making. What was my decision making like this game? In the early game, I put myself behind with my decisions. Regardless of other people's success in their lanes, I put myself behind. I need to own that. And the faster I can own that, the faster I can move on to the next game with that knowledge. People will learn at a much faster pace if they take responsibility for that learning process. And I feel like everyone will have higher quality games, because you would want to discuss like what really happened and what could we have done. Because if people don't take real accountability, then it's kind of deceptive about who caused the loss, so to speak. But remember, one of the key things of this whole discussion is what? You resent teammates for their mistakes. Focus on you and what your key mistakes were. It's a waste of your mental energy. It's toxic. It's hateful. It's also arrogant. And it's just dishonest. Because I made mistakes too. This area is not safe. Look at the map for vision. They're all down here. This area is not safe. So another thing for myself, we'll put it over here. Okay. Use far enemy jungle when team is very behind. There will be other games in the future where my team is similarly far behind that are technically still winnable. If the team that's ahead dives too deep, they can always throw. So remember, the enemy team technically can always throw. So you might as well fight it out like a champion, right? Fight it out like a person who has some fighting spirit and actually would bring their family honor. Would it bring your family honor if you played this way? People need to ask themselves that question. Would it bring yourself honor, where it shows that you care and you will exert yourself when you're put in a battle? You are put in a battle in these games. Will you exert yourself, or will you roll over and whine? What would your ancestors think if they looked at you while you were yelling at other people on the internet for not playing a video game well enough? What would they say? What would they think? It's shameful. We need to be accountable for ourselves. It's not that hard. Maybe it's hard, but it's not complicated. The strategy is fairly simple. Would you have talked shit to any of the teammates this game? If so, who and why? And what do you think that would do for you? Does it give you relief? Does it relieve some of the psychic damage that you took from the loss? Because it distracts your energy. If you spend 2 minutes talking shit to your team, you could have spent 2 minutes analyzing your play and just articulating what you're going to do the next time. What am I going to do the next time? I'm not going to chase people from lane at level 1 for kills. It's too slow and it's not worth the time investment. And I do too little damage. Key lesson. Lesson number 2. I'm going to pay attention to what resource my jungle gives me, and I will itemize around it. Point number 3. If my team is super duper far behind, I can use the enemy far jungle as a safe spot because the enemy team is being aggressive and they're forward on our side of the map. It's not that hard. I don't need to be mad at myself. I don't need to attack myself for my mistakes. I just need to say what they were and then say what I should do. That's all you have to do. Say what your mistakes were and say what you need to do. That's how you really cope with losses. You cope your loss by taking control of your loss with the knowledge of what you could have done better. I should not be by the Pudge. Anyone but the Pudge. He's a direct counter to me in every way, so I should basically figure out where he is and be on the opposite side of the world. So I'm top right now. And yes, our team is getting owned overall. But you don't need to yell at other people. It does nothing for your growth. It actually pulls the community back because you then inflict more psychic damage on other people. And by psychic damage, obviously, I mean psychological torture in a way that you're trying to make other people feel bad and feel guilty about stuff and question their ability to play the game, or that they're even worthy to play it at all. Those are very broad, kind of globally insulting stances that you can take that are very toxic to the world's mental health overall. So think about the impact you're making on the world. Are you a villain? Be honest. Are you a hero who stands up for people? Are you true neutral and you just mute everyone and try your best? That's valid as well. I would say mute all players are neutral good in that sense, because they're not harming anyone, they're doing their job, and they're giving people some peace and quiet in the comms, which I think that brings them into the positive, so respect if that's your way. Some people feel like they have to mute all just because of how the communities of these games are, and I can respect it. So I'm counter pushing here. It's pretty good. Actually, there isn't really that much of a reason for me to be here. It's kind of cool that I saved the supports, but I can't fight them yet. It's just how it is. Yep. So regardless of any of these individual mistakes that my allies are making, I know what I need to do better. So I feel good going into the next game now. Since we saw this game, since we saw the key mistakes that I made, I can't feel salty at any of them. They have their own stuff to work on, for sure. But we all do. And the faster we can acknowledge this as a community of gamers who want to get better, then the faster that our communities are going to grow, because we won't be hateful bastards who are just horrid to each other. You can cope with losses. It's doable. You take it one personal mistake at a time. And take it easy on yourself. Just say what the mistakes were and what you should have done differently. You're allowed to make mistakes, and you're allowed to make them a few times. That's okay. Everybody does. Some people are dishonest about it, and they will deny that they made mistakes and act like they play perfect. But everybody knows they're not actually doing that because we all make mistakes. Even at the highest level, they make mistakes. So, of course, everyone below the highest level makes lots of mistakes. It's not very hard to figure out. In calling people noobs, like, this is something that I used to do. So, on a personal level, I have decided to change my behavior. But back in the day, I used to call people noobs or trash or the like. But what does that do for me? It might tilt them in the short term, where you increase your chances of winning this match because you deal more mental damage to the enemy team and they make more mistakes. Or you could just focus on what you could have done better and not try to make other people feel bad. Because noob is a very relative distinction, right? Are you noob this game relative to the other players in the game? Or are you noob overall of all players? Like, what does that even mean? And what can we do with that? You're just insulting someone. So the thing that's crazy is I have lovely members of my community for this stream who they just started with Dota, and there are people in Herald who are calling other people noobs. The people that are in Herald, which is the lowest league that you start out in, they're calling other people who are also there noobs. Where's the self-awareness? Where's the accountability? And in the second league up, like, technically you are also noob compared to the highest level, but almost all of the levels are noob compared to pros. So it's a waste of your energy to try to call people names, to try to insult their skills. What does it do for you? It makes you spend more time of your day as a villain, verbally abusing others. Be honest with what the behavior is. If you're losing and you're coping by talking shit to others, that's a you problem. And that's a you problem that's making you feel worse, and it's making the community feel worse. Imagine going to a convention with Dota people and BMing the people in the crowd as much as you BM Dota players in a game. Take your average of how often you talk shit to people. And then when you go to that event, try talking shit to that many people to their face. You won't do it. No way. There's no way you do that. It's a gross behavior. People only do it in the shadows when no one else can see it. Maybe they do it on stream, but that's because those people believe that it is justified in some way. That you should verbally abuse people because they made mistakes in a video game. It's very gross. If you look at it and you really kind of show it to the world, they would say, wow, this is really gross behavior. People would frown upon this. But in the gaming community, it's become so normal because we've been like this for a long time. It has been a key part of getting ahead in these video games, is talking shit and getting people upset. And I can understand banter toward the enemy team, where you're trying to tilt them for the immediate win percentage. But bullying your own team is always a negative. There's no excuse for that, ever. That's never going to help your team. You can tell them, you can make calls and say, you need to make a BKB, or we need to defend this tower. Those things are valid. But you don't need to insult them globally. You don't need to insult their intelligence, insult their skill. All of these things distract you from capitalizing on your own win. So here, let's just theorycraft. If I made better decisions in the early game, I would be 2 to 6 levels higher than I am right now. If I personally made some better decisions in my early game movement and then my map positioning in the mid game, I would be level 25 to level 26. This Oracle would already be dead. I would have a Scotty and not a Null Talisman here. I think that would be huge rather than Eternal Shroud. We need some ability to kill the Pudge. I don't need to be tankier. I'm already tanky relative to the enemy team. So I should have gotten a Scotty. And yeah, basically just taking that responsibility for myself of, yes, this was a loss. Yes, our team had a lot of mistakes on it overall. And there's plenty of room to feel angry at teammates and so on. But if you can direct that focus, direct the focus back to yourself. And then as you move into the next game, reiterate your practice emphasis before going into the next game. This is the key. This is the key where you not only cope with losses and understand them, but you grow from them forward as a player. You want to reiterate your practice emphasis before going to the next game. Many people go into the next game venting about the previous game in the lobby. That shows that they haven't let go of that loss yet. They haven't let go of the loss. The loss is still gnawing at their brain, and they can't stand it. They have to talk about it. They have to vent about it, of how bad it was and how bad their team was and how bad their draft was. That's the mind wanting to cope with the loss by really chewing into their teammates. If you can take accountability, then you can focus on you and what you should have done better. So I could have played a much cleaner game than I did. Did we get stomped overall? Absolutely. We got super stomped. But the key is assess your own path. Just focus on yourself. Don't worry about what other people are doing. If you actually get better in your play, your MMR will still go up. There are some games that are unsavable. Maybe this game was unsavable, even if I played a great game. Maybe this was not a savable game. But there are a lot of games that will be closer than this one that you can turn the tide. As a player who learns over time, as a player who takes accountability and responsibility, you can learn. One step at a time. Go to the replay. Look at you. Find 3 key mistakes. For bonus points, write them down. Look, if I would have gone to their jungle, I would have gotten all of that. You see, chat? That was a me problem. That silencer getting all those was my fault. And I don't have anyone else to blame. Just because my warlock started with no items and got a hand of Midas first at 45 minutes doesn't mean that I should be mad at him or yell at him. Maybe you can vent a little bit to your friends, it's fine. Venting is okay, but you have to recognize when you're doing it and how much you should be doing it, so you don't get carried away and forget about yourself in the process. I vent a little bit too. And this was a hard game. Maybe unsavable. I think maybe savable, to be honest. If I was huge this game and I had a Scotty earlier, then I could really threaten the Pudge. But I didn't ever hit that power spike. My Orchid doesn't really help me versus the Pudge that much. But it does help me shut down the Oracle and then kill people, so. Hope you enjoyed this breakdown. You can cope with losses. I believe in you. Don't worry about your results in the short term. It's about your growth over hundreds of games. That's the most important thing for your enjoyment and your MMR increase. You need to be thinking about each experience is like a lap in the pool. I'm just putting in laps. Lap, lap, lap. Just putting laps in the pool. And each lap isn't necessarily going to be your best of your whole life, but you're still gaining experience and you're gaining mechanical strength. You're practicing the mechanics of the game. Could we win this fight at this point? No, we're just too behind. Pudge is too big, no one can kill him. Because Pudge got a super good early game because of my mistake. So the Pudge being out of control is partly my problem. And that's why there was no need for me to flame. If you're really mad about a game, I challenge you to look at the replay and look at your POV and then write down your first 3 mistakes. I guarantee a decrease between 4 and 90% in the tilt that you have about that match. Between 4 and 90% decrease of tilt every time you go through replay analysis. It helps a lot. And it's free. That's the thing. That's the other thing that's amazing about this. Your own replay analysis is free of charge. If you get an invoker support in the off lane, can you vent? Yes, you can vent. But you can only vent for a minute, and then you just have to deal that that's a pick that happens. But you can vent for 1 minute. Goblins aren't allowed to speak. Sire, he is a king. Kings speak when they wish. You charge yourself for being bad at the game. He penalizes himself. It's a growth technique they never expected. You could do that. I've done that with fitness, where I do 10 push-ups per death. You can punish yourself to incentivize growth and to teach your body growth. Sort of like how you would discipline a dog or a child in some way, of like being able to tell them something is wrong and get them to understand that and shift their behavior. That's hard to do. So being able to do that with yourself is also hard to do. How do you discipline yourself to want to improve and not to fall into the abyss of shitting on the invoker support the whole game? Because you could do that. You could say that you firmly believe that invoker support is not good and just really try to reiterate that so that person never does it again. But you're probably never going to play with that person ever again. So your success or failure in that debate and trying to brainwash them to never invoker support again, it's a low shot. It's a low shot, and it's a low shot that they even play with you again, because so many people play these multiplayer games. This is a warning and a reminder. Do not bully people and ride them the whole game. Do not do this. Do not do this. This is your brain on road rage. It's on road rage. If you want to quietly vent to yourself and to your friends in Discord, where you're not on the team comms for this, if you want to vent to your friends and say, another invoker support, that's fine. I'll allow it. But if you yell at the invoker in voice constantly and ping him and talk shit to him the whole game, you are wasting your own time and you're not focusing on this. This is the green area. This is growth. I'm kind of blocking some of this. Oops. This is the green area. This is your growth area. This is your destruction area. This makes you a villain IRL, and this also distracts you from getting good. It's not worth it. You're not going to change their mind, and you're also probably never going to play with them again. But you are making someone's day worse. This has been my TED Talk on coping with losses. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate you very much. Best of luck in your games, and enjoy the replay analysis. Let me know how it goes. How many people regularly analyze their replays? I could do it more. It's definitely a huge detilting factor. Use it wisely.